What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Never Lag, and we're here talking to y'all about February because now it is March. March about February, as we like to say, and we're gonna shoot the breeze, talk about what we played in February, and just hang out for a little bit. So, thank you for joining us, and I'm joined by the man who fell in the pit, of course, Zach, and Stormblessed himself, Calvin. How you guys doing?
Calvin has a way better moniker than
Well,
I
you
do.
know what? You named yourself Fell in the Pit. We didn't do this to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I made a choice for my screen name on the PlayStation Network 12 years ago because I couldn't think of anything, and I
And
didn't
like it's
expect
ever
it.
gonna matter.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to stick with me
You're like, this won't ever stick.
into my mid-30s in the realm of content creation to an audience.
Your
of-
grandchildren are going to be like, it's Fell in the Pit.
yeah,
Instead of
Fell in
like
the pit.
Peepaw.
When you and Grandma first met, were you still in the pit? Metaphorically. And physically, a little
Metaphorically, I never left the pit. Little Johnny.
bit. Meanwhile, Calvin.
So it is kind of funny. It is kind of funny that your stupid username that you picked on a whim years and years. It's like your first email. None of us want to use our first email in like
totally.
a business conversation or something.
It's like Shadow the Hedgehog 53 at yahoo.com. Like,
I'm joined
12.
by Shadow. Yeah.
And then you apply for
I
a
was
job
12.
with your
Stop bringing
Shadow
it
the
up.
Hedgehog 53 at hotmail.com. And they're like, I don't know if I want to hire this guy. He's one of those like Sonic the Hedgehog weirdos.
Well, we keep you around all the same. Yeah, Calvin deliberated over a long period of time. Like, how long has it been since?
It took me like 10 years to finally change my PlayStation username, and
I should change
was
mine. Yeah.
it
Well, it
was
didn't
the
take that
same
long,
as
'cause
my
they only-
original email for years. So
Yeah, his
only
was
recent.
actually worse. His was like identity theft 101. His username.
Yeah,
It was like, here's my first, middle name, last name, and social security as my PlayStation username.
Mother's maiden name,
Yeah.
first dog, and the elementary school I went to.
So I mean, you did win the lottery a little bit. Stormblessed, the Stormlight Archive came and saved you as far as usernames go.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it works because you're Cal. Cal.
Got the
almost
Cal,
as
yeah.
good as Neverlag. It's almost as good.
Yeah. Well, man, I've always thought the one thing that would make the Stormlight Archive better is if Kaladin was Kaladin Neverlag instead of Kaladin Stormblessed.
I mean, you telling me that wouldn't work? He would be cooler.
I'm sure Sanderson could.
I feel like if he was Kaladin Neverlag, he would have some like sci-fi stuff.
Time power. He would have time powers.
Something.
You got to read some more Sanderson stuff because.
Oh, we will. I've been slowly making my way through Rhythm of War and very much enjoying it.
I think me and you are probably right.
Oh, we're all close. We're all close.
You're close.
About the halfway point.
I'm a little.
I just finished
that,
part 2.
Okay, you're not far behind us at all.
You're only a couple chapters behind. Well, I mean, besides the interludes. Anyways,
yeah.
This is a video game podcast.
That's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about
distractions.
We're here to talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about.
Yeah, that's
viewer,
right.
dear viewer, dearest viewer. So
yep. Our fan base of 1 to 2 people will no doubt.
We accidentally recruited our only fan into the channel. So yeah. February
maybe someday we'll get
went.
Another fan, and then we'll have OnlyFans.
Oh, God.
Just click that.
I don't understand. I'm not a fan, so that'll never work.
This is another tangent, but
you have to get rid of me.
I don't know how this topic came up, but the topic of OnlyFans came up with around my dad the other day, and I was like talking with Ethan and Brandy, and my dad's like, "What is OnlyFans?" And so then we're trying to like tactfully explain OnlyFans to
your dad?
a man in his mid 60s at this point.
Have you? That reminds me of the video. Have you seen it? The reel or whatever, where it's like it's animated. I don't know if it was originally animated, but it's a dad who's like, yeah, my daughter, she sells fans online.
Oh my God.
And then they're just like,
only that.
What?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And they're just like, just fans. He's like, yeah, only fans.
Oh,
they're like, not like AC units or any, like nothing else. No, only fans.
It'd be incredible if she had an OnlyFans and it was all fan related content. Like there was nothing.
It was real.
Whatever.
There was a paywall there. You pay for the OnlyFans, but it's all literal fan related. Actually, apparently OnlyFans was started to be more like sports based or something, or at least they claim it wasn't. I think it's one of those things
They're
where
like,
the internet
whoops.
does what the internet does. But anyway, yeah, try explaining OnlyFans to your aging parents.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Hopefully your children were there.
they probably were. They're always around.
You had to have you kind of had the conversation with both generations,
Right, exactly.
the
It's like
birds and the
mom,
bees with your
dad.
parents,
In the
with your
digital world, this
with
is
your
how it
children. Just
works.
knock it out in one time.
When a man loves a woman very much, he finds her profile and subscribes. There's a tier-based payment system, and depending on how much he loves her,
and he has a
maybe
one-sided fake relationship that he thinks is very real.
when he loves her, he becomes a VIP. Now, a VIP, I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of OnlyFans.
You sound like you do.
I know. Yeah, keep going. This is like a full course here. This is
Well,
I'm learning a lot.
interesting stuff. A
you know,
master class.
ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is also defeat. That's what I always say.
Great. Life before death. Okay.
Hesitation is defeat.
All right, video games.
So-
This is
Welcome. That was our intro.
welcome to the Neverlag podcast.
That's better than most, I'll say. So yeah, February came and went. Short month. 28. It's funny how 28 days can feel like half of 31 for some reason, but
Yeah, there's some interesting time distortion happening there.
yeah. So we made a plan. We made a pact at the beginning of February of what games we were going to play, and we all stuck to it. There was some adversity, but we fought through it, and we were all men of our word. And now here we are in March to tell you exactly about those games that we agreed we were going to play.
Definitely stuck to, and all
100%.
played in harmony.
Starting with Pacific Drive. All right, so how the punchline to the joke is that these two did not get very far. So how far did you guys get?
You go, Zach.
So I haven't quite gotten the car yet. Just kidding.
Car.
I don't know. I played for maybe.
Do you even start without the car? I can't remember.
You start with like
a
your
different
own
car. You
and
lose
then
that car.
You
You
get
get a
sucked
new
into
car.
a dimension,
Oh,
and then
okay.
you have to go find the new car. But it's you're
like
you're in
immediate.
car pretty much right away. I don't know. I played probably 3 to 4 hours of Pacific Drive, enough to do a couple of. It's sort of roguelite, but not quite. Like it's you have your little garage where you fix up your car, and then you set like missions where it's like you have a map, and you're like, I want to go here, and then you go there, and you like get resources and try and figure out more things you can build and uncover more of the story. And then over time, you can get destinations where it's like you have to take like a multi-stop trip where it's like, I want to go to this place, but I'm gonna have to stop at 1 or 2 places along the way. So I got to the point where I was like going to like 2 or 3 steps out, and I did a handful of runs.
So neither of you made it to the first wall.
No.
Okay,
I
that's
didn't.
a bit of a bummer.
Sounds like Zach made it further than me.
Okay, that's a bit of a bummer because I will say, those were some cool. There's some cool moments, and when you breach each of the walls, there's 2 main walls that you breach to reach further into this zone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really cool, like set piece specific missions where a lot of the areas you're going to can start to feel similar. I mean, there's different like biomes or whatever, but like, they're kind of procedurally generated esque. But those were some cool missions. So yeah, what did you guys? So I guess just with your time with it, Calvin, if you want to go into kind of your whole epiphany that you had, that's fine. Just curious what you guys liked, what you didn't like, and then I can kind of say what's left over because I did finish the game. I played it on Steam, but I got all the trophies and.
Oh, I didn't realize you played it on Steam.
Yeah. Because someone didn't do what they were supposed to do when they bought the game. What was I going to say? I got all the trophies. I really enjoyed it. I got to the point where I beat the game, and the trophy list it did great on me after a while, but I had rolled credits and I still wanted to play more, so I went and got all the. But I do have critiques of the game, even though I really enjoyed it. So.
Zach, if you want to kind of start, I'll go after you.
I like it is my overall impression, and I plan to play more and finish it at some point. I'm a very mood driven gamer, first of all, which can make it kind of hard to stick to things if I'm just not feeling a type of game. This happened to me with Subnautica the first time I played it. I just wasn't in the headspace to play a whole lot of it, but I could recognize that it was good. And then I came back to it, and Subnautica's, it's one of my favorite games. So I don't think this is necessarily on the level of Subnautica quite, but I think this is an impressive game. I think it's really interesting. Um, the mechanic of like fixing up your car and like taking it out into this kind of dangerous, weird zone, kind of akin to like Area X from like Annihilation or something, is really cool. And then kind of the attachment you have to your car, it's kind of beat up and junky for a long time, and so it's like you kind of get used to like the quirks of your vehicle, and you start to fix things up and make it better, and you repair it. And you have all, I always love having like uh the spaces for things where it's like, you open your trunk and you have like your little crafting mat and your boxes and your storage, and you have like a little device in your passenger seat. And I've always loved that idea of like being in a spaceship or being in a vehicle out in a kind of dangerous territory, and you have all of the little things you need in your vehicle, and you're kind of managing that. And I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah. Really quick,
um,
let me jump in as you don't like. I don't want to interrupt your thought, but just for people who don't know the game, we didn't really outline what it is. It's a first-person, um, immersive survival game with roguelite elements, is what I would say. It's very similar in a lot of ways to Subnautica, but it's not an open world like Subnautica is. Instead, like as we described, you're going in your car, you're going out to a couple different stops, and you can pick which, oftentimes you'll go to a stop, and once you make it through that area, it's a procedurally generated open area. Once you're done, you can usually exit that area and pick from one of two or three different other areas you can go to, depending on what direction you're trying to explore, what roads you're trying to unlock, what resources you need. And then at the very end of it, you can do some stuff and work back to your garage, repair your car, upgrade your base, and then move on from there. But there are narrative elements as well that are kind of pushing you forward through the story. So that's what the game is.
yeah, yeah, we probably should have prefaced with that. um, yeah, so that aspect is really cool. And I like, there's definitely a good tension of, this area is like weird things happening. It's kind of sci-fi, slightly tinged horror. If you've played Control or
Control.
Alan
Yep.
Wake, some of
Yeah.
those weird like sci-fi elements happening, it kind of
Anomalies.
anomalies. Yeah, Control probably more so than Alan Wake, but anomalies in the woods and like strange things happening that can be dangerous, but sometimes they're like sort of just neutral, but they can be dangerous if you interface
Yeah,
with
they
them.
aren't
Like almost,
explicitly dangerous or aggressive. They just kind of exist. Some
they're
of them
kind of
could be
forces of
good.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, I think more like hurricanes or firestorms, but like weird sci-fi anomalies.
Yeah. And so you're trying to like avoid those. There are these weird like robot things that will come after you and try and get you in some areas, and you're trying to like, and I think they can hear you. You're trying to avoid them, trying to avoid these weird anomalies, and then trying to find materials to upgrade your stuff, and to find like these devices that fuel your car's, I don't know, travel ability to kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. So it's not
What were they
teleporting, but
called? Do you
it's kind of
remember?
like, it kind of like opens up a portal back to the safe zone or something,
Yeah.
um, for lack of a better word. So anyway,
It's
it's
just energy. I think it's just called
it's
energy
just,
or
yeah,
unstable. They're called cores, I
they're
think.
Yeah,
Unstable
I'm
yeah,
cores,
suddenly
stable
drawing a blank.
cores,
something like that.
unstable
The
cores, and then
yellow
there's like,
core ball
yeah,
things.
Yeah.
yep.
So it's cool. I like it. I think it's a very interesting game, and I love when a game like that feels new. Like it feels familiar in some ways of like certain archetypes, but I think it does some really new things with them that makes it feel refreshing. Like it's not just Subnautica, or it's not just Control. Like it's definitely a good
Yeah.
fusion of things that becomes very much its own thing, which is why I want to finish it too. For me, the reason I stopped is mostly just because I've been busy, and I am not. I go through phases where I'm more or less into gaming, and the past week or two I've just had a lot going on, so I kind of fell away from it. So I plan to get back to it. I don't know exactly when, but it was cool. I maybe I'll let you guys talk for a little bit. I maybe have some critiques. It's a little hard to say when you're only like 4 hours into a game whether or not something is a valid critique, or it's just you need to see how the rest of the experience comes together. So maybe I'll hear what Calvin has to say, and then Levi, you could give your critiques, and then I can kind of chime in.
Yeah, so I kind of came to a personal realization when it comes to gaming for myself with Pacific Drive. And ultimately, it's that I don't think I enjoy or can really play immersive survival games. And I'll try and keep it quick, but this realization
Ooh.
goes back to when I first played or tried to play many times Subnautica. Like you brought up Subnautica, kind of comparing them. Um, I attempted to play Subnautica all the way through probably like 3 or 4 different times. Um, and it was very confusing because I loved the game. And, you isolate just about any singular aspect of the game, and I love it. And I think it's 10 out of 10. And yet I could never keep playing it. Like I would play it for a few hours, maybe a few days, and I would feel burnt out. I continued to not want to come back to it. Um, which was frustrating because like everyone loves Subnautica. I know it's up there for your guys' all-time favorite games. A lot of people feel that way. And so I kind of had that expectation, but also I do like so much about the game, and yet I just couldn't finish it. And so I kind of like carried that for a long time and not understanding why and just feeling confused about it. And then with Pacific Drive, I feel like I got a little more context because as different as it is, I feel like Pacific Drive has a lot of similarities with Subnautica, as you kind
It's
of
the
mentioned.
closest comparison I would give. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's still very different, but
If you like Subnautica, I think you'll like Pacific Drive.
yeah,
Like I think that's the
probably.
closest comparison you could make.
And so I started Pacific Drive, and same thing. It has so many elements that I genuinely love. I don't know, like you said, I don't know if it's quite on the same level as Subnautica, but just the vibe, the atmosphere, the sound design, the music, art style, all of it. I think it's great. I love just the very basic gameplay of like driving your car, how that feels, kind of the clunkiness and realism of it, interacting with things.
Yeah.
I do like all of that. Upgrading your car, um, and yet it was just a similar like kind of confusing experience where I would go out and do a mission, and I'd come back and I'd be like, "That was fun," and like I can now try and
That
upgrade
was
my
fun.
car a little bit
I
and
never
stuff.
want to do that again.
Yeah, and then I'd be like, "That was fun," and yet I actively dread going out and playing more. And so
It's
it
fake,
was
Calvin. It's not real. It can't hurt you.
yeah, I don't know. It feels so silly for it to be like that. It's just too
He
stressful
wakes
for
up in
me.
a cold sweat. My tire's flat.
Yeah, I don't know, but something about the tension and the stress of it is exhausting for me in a way that isn't fun, and I don't look forward to
Yeah.
playing more.
I feel
So
that a little bit because I like it and I like tense things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I horror games are hit or miss for me, and it also depends on the mood I'm in. And like I said, I've been busy. Like work has been a little stressful, and like there's had a lot of like family stuff and like going on too, and where it's like I am not. I've been exhausted and not always in the mood to be like tensely driving a piece of junk car down a mountainside as an anomaly chases me and the world's about to explode. Like, um, you know, but
So
I do like
relaxing.
that type of thing too sometimes. So
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. That's
I
how I
understand where
felt.
you're coming from too. Also, just in general, there are games where um, I enjoy elements of it, and I'm like, I kind of want to press on, but at the end of the day, I'm feeling drained from the game,
and
Mhm.
whether it is scary or tension or whatever it is. It can leave you feeling drained, and it's that's not really the
yeah,
point of games. So yeah,
and I think part of the realization I came to with Pacific Drive that also helped with a little closure on Subnautica is what specifically I don't enjoy or struggle with. And I think it's a combination of a few things, but I think maybe the crux of it is the survival aspect. Immersive survival specifically, because I don't think
You
I
hate
necessarily
surviving.
I
We've
don't
always known that.
dislike just overall survival games that much, but something about the immersive survival because I actually kind of enjoy tense um I haven't played many horror games or anything, but I enjoy tense, kind of
I mean, you
scary
play
moments
Souls
in
games,
games.
which
Yeah,
are pretty tense. So
and like again, I'm not a horror game player. But like
That's a good point.
Control, it has a lot of those vibes. I enjoy that stuff, so I don't think it's that. I think it's maybe that
But is
combination
it the
with
first person?
survival.
We were trying to
It
sort this out. We were having a whole discussion
it's
off
certainly a
air about
combination
like,
of things.
what is it?
is
Is
it
it
the
the first
Pacific
person?
Northwest?
He hates Oregon and
He
Washington.
hates Oregon and
Cannot
Washington.
stand them.
Oh my
Well,
god.
I don't think Subnautica took place in Oregon.
Yeah,
It's really hard to
I
say.
don't
You're
think it
underwater
did.
the whole time.
Yeah, maybe Oregon
I don't think it
10
takes
million
place on
years in the
Earth.
future. Yeah, I don't think that's Earth. So no, I
Okay,
know
well,
what
do
you
you have
mean.
any
Sometimes
thoughts?
it's the mix of things, like the way it
Yeah.
comes together.
And I will say, so that was my realization, and it's obviously overall negative for me because I don't enjoy it enough to want to finish it. But that being said, like I was saying with Subnautica, I really, really enjoy many aspects of the game that I still would like to talk about. But so
Well, you're no longer allowed.
I was waiting for
You're
someone to come
Okay,
in there.
I'll jump. I'll
Yeah.
jump in. I'll jump in. So yeah, I mean, I'm at this point the highest on this game for sure. I think when I finished it, I was like, that is probably a top 30 game for me. Which I don't know, what does that mean to anybody? But like, it's pretty hard to breach the top. Impossible to breach the top 10. Pretty hard to breach the top 20. Top 30 is a really good game. I would say that this game, I think like on paper, its mechanics and how they all work together kind of ends up being about an 8 out of 10 game. I would say that's a pretty safe spot for it. But the atmosphere and just the overall experience of playing this game is really 10 out of 10. It has really 10 out of 10 moments. I will remember, like you said, it's similar to Subnautica, but this is a game and a type of gameplay that I've never experienced in a game before. Just that first person, really immersive ownership of this junky beat up car that you're trying to survive in this, anomaly filled Pacific Northwest is just, it has all of the vibes. And when you get into your car and you show up at a new junction or whatever, and it's like twilight, just bright enough that you can see, but maybe you need your headlights, and it's just pouring rain, and the sound design in this game is 10 out of 10.
The sound
The
design's
sound
very good.
design, and which
Definitely.
is so needed, because when you think of Subnautica 2,
Yeah.
one of the things it does 10 out of 10 is the sound design, and without that, so much of the game falters. And this is the same way. Like, everything you do, from shifting and steering and the way your car sounds, what you're driving over, like Calvin said, the car performs exactly as it should. It doesn't perform terribly well. It's not an arcade type driving game, but it's also not the most simulated. But it just, you feel kind of that you're driving this beater car around. It just works well enough that it's not annoying, but
Yeah.
poor enough that you really feel like you're in this
It gives
car.
you that feeling. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And so
It
I
doesn't
just
feel
will
fake.
remember. Yeah, I will remember this game for sitting in the driver's seat and just kind of like that visual of your steering wheel, all of your little indicators, your headlights, it's raining, it's kind of spooky, and you're just kind of tentatively driving through this junction. And then I loved too the design of, I think they did a brilliant job of, everything is just monotonous enough to truly immerse you. Like, not so monotonous that it's painful, but just the perfect amount. Because when you're driving, you have, if you look off to the right in your passenger seat, you have a big screen that basically is a map of your area. You can use it to kind of look at, um, what the roads through the area are like, what possible um, buildings there are to visit, um, different stuff like that. But anyways, to look at that map, you don't just push a button and then it pops up or whatever, like a video game would do. You actively have to turn your camera while you're driving and look at the map while you're driving, or stop and park. And so it's like you have to take your eyes off the road and look at the map and then look back. And all of it creates this really immersive, visceral experience of driving the car
It
that you
adds to the
feel
tension.
really, it adds to the
Yeah.
tension too. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got mirrors, you've got like rear view mirrors that actually work.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of check in your mirror. Oh, is there something chasing me? What's behind me? They just did such a good job delivering this like fantasy in quotes, because we all drive probably every day, but like they nailed it. What it would feel like to be in this universe driving this beat up car. And I think
Yeah.
that is what this card or what this game does better than anything, and what I will remember, and what
Mm-hmm.
makes it a top tier game, even though I
Yeah.
do have some
This is a
complaints.
highly memorable game, and the mechanics and the vibe and a lot of the like design and aesthetic choices all come together very well to deliver that. Um, and yeah, like you said, it's one of those things where some of those little choices that make it a little harder, but are so unique and interesting, like having to look over with your like view to the map, like you would in real life, like you have this computer. Because I would sometimes go to hit the map button. I'm like, oh wait, I can't do that. I got to go look at the map.
Yeah.
And you're driving, like
And
you got to be careful you don't run into a tree or something while you're
a
looking at your map.
a small like another thing that kind of out of context feels very like inconsequential, but similar to what you're saying, that I really just thought was neat. Same idea of kind of having to actually look around in the car, um, outside. If something's happening outside or you take note of something, you have to actually look over there. But even like I instantly compared it to like something like Gran Turismo, where you can also have that first person view inside the car. You can to a degree look around the car, but when you're in that kind of car in a game, you never need to look around to accurately
Yeah,
drive
you're
it.
not like really looking at
And
your
there was
environment.
there was times in Pacific Drive where like I was just making a right turn on a road, like there was a fork in the road, I had to make the right turn, and like rather than just turning right and looking with my camera fixed, I was actively like turning my camera over to the right to see as far over there as I could to make sure I was clear and
Yeah.
everything. And it's that small stuff
Or
is
I'll
really
even
cool.
have moments where like you're coming up over a hill and you're like trying to move the camera so you can see better, but it's like you can't because you're
Yeah,
sitting in the driver's seat and you can't
yeah.
see past the hood because you're driving uphill. Like
You're
it's
trying to
it's
do
Yeah.
just
like a
very,
third person camera
yeah, you're
move.
like, how do I
Yeah,
look
I know. I
at the
find myself
ground?
going like this as if that
Yeah.
would actually do anything.
Like
and
it's
the
your
So,
hood
first
will
time playing a
actually
video game.
sometimes
mhm.
very much obstruct your view.
Yeah, so it just nails it, and just other elements like when you stop the car, if you don't pull your parking brake, and these buttons too, like to turn the car on or to pull your parking brake, you have to hold the button for a second.
Hmm.
It's not just like you click it, and it just creates that further
Yeah,
tactile
you
feel with
hold
the
it to like
car.
turn the key and like wait for the
Yeah, so when
ignition to
when
catch
you exactly. You can't just
and the
push the
engine to turn
button
it
or
over
it
I
doesn't
whatever.
start.
Yeah.
You have to hold it until the engine rolls, and then you're
Hmm.
okay, I'm good. And then you
in
and then you go to drive and the car doesn't move and you go, "Oh yeah, I got to put the parking brake down." Then you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You open your car door like when you jump out to grab one of these cores for one of the main things you're trying to grab are these energy cores. Um, that basically stabilize the zone. So you're like destabilizing the zone in order to gather this resource. But when you run back to your car, you've destabilized the zone a little bit, so everything's kind of going crazy around you, and you have to physically open your passenger door to be able to put it into your car. There's like a machine that you have in your passenger seat behind the map screen that consumes this core, and you don't just like drop it off at the car. You have to like open the door, make sure that you're on the right side of the door, and then put the core in the passenger seat. So all these things, like you go to the back of your car and you open your trunk, and if you're standing under the trunk and then you close it, it'll hit your head and actually damage you. Like there's just all these little
see, I
quirks.
never made it far enough in the game to get a trunk. I never had a trunk.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is it took me a long time to get a trunk because I didn't realize that it was just a door.
It's just a door. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
just a door. So I
so I
kept
could have
waiting
had
for
a
a
trunk the whole
blueprint.
time.
Yeah, I kept waiting for a blueprint, and then like an hour or two in, I was like, "Oh, if you just put a door on the back, it just turns into
It
a
does
trunk."
make
That's
sense
all it
because
is.
like panel applies to like the front quarter panel and the hood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just all these little elements come together so good. And if you stop your car and you get out and you're on an incline and you didn't pull the parking brake, your car is about to roll and like take off, and
Yeah.
that'll happen where you'll forget. But it'll also get to the point where it is such like a
Muscle
routine
memory. Yeah.
muscle memory where you turn off the car, you pull your parking brake, you get out of the car. It's
Like
so
real
well
life.
done,
Yep.
just like real life. Well, I mean, actually, I don't pull the parking brake that often in a real
But
car,
yeah,
but
You do
there
now.
was the video
every
I
time.
sent you guys of like one of the first missions. I think it might be the first actual mission. Um, I got my last core and I put it in the passenger seat. I go around. And I get in, I go to start the car, and I did hold the button, but apparently not long enough. So I didn't start the car, but I thought I did. Put it into drive, and I look forward, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I look down, I crank it again, start it, and then the anomaly comes and flips my car over, and it
Yeah, you
was
had quite the
wild.
experience there. So, some other things I'll shout out that I really liked. The sound design I already said is phenomenal. Like when you grab a core from one of the junctions, the sound that it makes. I played this with headphones too, and it's
Yeah,
just like this deep, like disturbed,
resonant.
resonant sound that like just oh you just pulled like a tent, a tent pole out from underneath this zone, and you kind of feel it, and then everything kind of goes crazy around you. The sound design is so good. I loved the rain, man. I actually wanted more zones to have rain all the time, because whenever I would drive into a zone that just was pouring rain, that ambient sound of driving your car through the Pacific Northwest with the rain hitting the metal on top of your car was just like immaculate vibes. You can even turn on the radio in your car and listen to music, which is another thing I'll shout out. The music in this game is really cool. I actually found a couple songs that I even saved
I was gonna
on
ask about
playlists.
that. Wait,
Yeah,
you probably got more songs than me, but I in my short play time, I got 2 songs from that I added to
I mean
playlists.
it's worth just go to Spotify or wherever you listen and and look at the soundtrack and listen through it. It's really good. I loved getting back to the garage and just tinkering around, like upgrading stuff, building stuff. But in the background, I've got these 20 songs kind of shuffling through on a radio, and it just kind of really created a sense of place in this world that is so well done. I love the upgrade system for the cars, the very tactile feel of removing a panel from your car and then picking up another panel and putting it in, or changing a flat tire, or just the TLC that you perform really endears you to the vehicle in a way that, like, this happens in real life where people are really connected to their vehicles in a way that they don't feel that the vehicle is inanimate. You kind of start to feel that over the course of this game when you're interacting with the car. The storage system, I thought was really cool. It's just kind of a classic grid based backpack or trunk system where every object in the game either takes up 1 square or 2 squares or 4 squares or has a funny shape. And so you have to move stuff around in your inventory
A
and,
little
and
bit of
make it
Tetris.
a little bit of Tetris going on. The UI, I love the UI design of this game. It is so, I don't know, whoever designed all of the UI in this game and all of there's no other word, just UI, whether it's the trunk or the menu or whatever you're interacting with, the font, the color design, the boxes, just the UI is so cool in this game. I will say at the outset, in the beginning, this game could do a better job of tutorializing a lot of
A little
things,
overwhelming.
because it's very overwhelming in the first hour, I would say, to really understand um, not only what the UI is communicating, but also sometimes in the beginning, it can feel like button presses are different for different situations. Like, I confirm with this button here, I attach something with this button here. It can feel a little wonky at first. It goes away once you play it. Like it became second nature for me. But I will say, I remember in that first hour looking at, I thought the UI looked amazing, but also I was like, what the actual heck am I looking at? Like, what does all this mean? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll talk more about that, but I do think that dumbing things down is a more of a crime than um, having a more elaborate system that people can get used to. What else do I need to shout out? UI, storage
Um,
space.
I'll just
Yeah,
jump in.
go ahead.
Similar thought. I loved the. It just kind of falls under, I guess, art direction, but specifically with the car. First of all, I liked the car and the way they designed it, but also interior. You know, from like that first mission, once you kind of get your car set up with all that technology, and I know you can customize it further beyond that, but just that base technology you have like on your dash with the screen, the map, and all that. Um, I just absolutely loved all the visual design and art direction of all of that.
Agree.
Very cool.
It's right in line with the UI. I just think the art style and art direction in this game is 10 out of 10. I love the art style. Very stylized, kind of soft, clay esque. I feel like I say that about so many games, but it's one of my favorite art
That's
styles is
good.
when it just feels like it's 10 to 20% made of clay and kind of stylized. It looks so good for some reason. I love that.
And
And
it
I
always like holds its value. It always,
Yeah,
looks
it
better for
ages really
longer,
well.
Clay always holds its value. That's what I
That's what
always
I
say.
always say.
like
Yep.
Toyota.
Yeah.
So it looks great. I mean, I have so many videos and screenshots. I love even the rainy, dark biomes look great. But then even there's some days or biomes where you go in and it's like golden hour, sunset, kind of fall. All the trees are yellow, and the shadows, the lighting, everything just looks phenomenal. This game is so good to look at.
And
I
it
don't know
it
how the
ran
performance
it
was on
ran.
PlayStation.
You didn't play it on PlayStation either, right, Zach?
No, I played it on. No, he didn't.
No, I
Yeah.
did.
So it. I mean,
You're
I
on
don't.
PlayStation?
Hmm.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't have quite
I didn't know
the
you bought it on PlayStation.
you know
Yeah, I decided
the
I
eye
wanted to
for it
play it
as
on
you, but
PlayStation.
I thought it ran very very good on PlayStation. I no
Agreed.
issues that I could point out.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
has a
I
performance
played a
mode.
little
You
bit
feel
on
like it's
both
hitting
PC and
60.
PlayStation, and they both. I don't know about 60, but it ran well. I wasn't thinking about it, which is a good
Yeah,
sign.
it never made me
That's
think
good.
about it.
That's good because at launch I did hear a lot of stuff about performance. So it seems like they've gotten
Maybe
a
they've
lot of that
updated a
under
little bit.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as the narrative goes, you do have like some walkie-talkie companions that'll talk to you throughout your journey, and they were fine enough. The narrative was fine. It was enough to keep me engaged and kind of push further
Nothing
into the zone.
groundbreaking.
I did the different each. So basically, your garage is at the outer rim, and your goal is to get to the center of the anomaly zone, wherever whatever started this happened,
The
basically,
centroid of the
and
mechanism.
the centroid of the mechanism. And you've got two huge walls that circle around the center that are meant to basically keep the anomalies in and keep people out. And so as you progress through the story, you will have missions to breach the outer wall and then to breach the inner wall. And each time you breach into a new zone, things change. Things get a little crazier. The biome looks different. And I really enjoyed, just when it was getting a little old being in that outer zone, you breach into the middle zone. And it's this kind of like marsh land. And it's just, there's all new manner of anomalies and weird things to scan and figure out what they do, and new resources to figure out how do I gather this, what does it do, and then you breach the inner zone and it's even crazier, and just the visual design of each zone kind of escalating and being completely different from the last really helped, definitely. So I enjoyed that. I guess if we're getting just into more critiques here, I would say my biggest critiques are that this game feels like it has the fundamentals to be an all-around 10 out of 10 game, but like maybe it didn't have enough time to cook, whether it was that the dev team was too small or just they needed to get this out the door. I would have preferred that this game were a true open world. It would have been really cool if you just had a garage.
That's my biggest critique too.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a
More like
roguelike.
Subnautica.
Mhm.
Yeah, if it were more like Subnautica, I just feel like it would be way better if it's like your camp were in the middle of the zone and you had to kind of take excursions and then make
Branch
your way
out.
back.
Yeah, or
I
you
don't
get
know.
you can like Subnautica,
Or you can make new camps.
you can get
Yeah.
a new better
Build your
camp.
own.
Like you build your own
Yeah.
camp, and
Yeah.
through
Yeah,
anomalies maybe you
build a
can
base. Yeah.
So I don't want to
get
get I don't want to
a
get
stable core that like teleports it to the yeah.
yeah, I don't want to get too
Um,
far into like this game being a completely different game, but I don't love the roguelite
Same.
design that they
a
landed
question I
on.
had,
Yeah.
because it's obviously just overall it is a roguelike game from the very beginning. I mean, you're from the very beginning you're doing missions and you are just getting teleported back to the garage. And
Yeah.
I remember you said something a while back about towards the end of the game or the latter half of the game, um, something changed, and I feel like you said something about its roguelike nature evolved or it became even more roguelike, something like that. But I obviously didn't make it that far. So
No, I think what I was telling you is that, so this is, I'll get further into my critique here. Um, it feels like the roguelite element, maybe it was their original design intent, but as usual with a lot of games we're getting these days, it can feel like a roguelite is a way to mask um, to stretch content, right? Oh, our game that's 5 hours is now instead 30 hours because it's a
Yeah.
roguelite. And I do feel like this game kind of lacks some of the teeth, the depth, the substance to really round out its campaign. There were times where it's like, all right, now just explore and create. Um, you can't exit certain zones until you've been there to explore to know, okay, now there's an exit. So to further branch out your paths, you have to do expeditions that are just to a point and then come back and then redo the expedition and go further. And that's a little tedious. Um, the elements. So the other thing you're doing when you're going to these junctions that kind of coincides with your backpack and your trunk space and all this, you're gathering resources. So you'll stop in a building and you'll open up the trunk or the fridge and there'll be a plastic or there'll be fabric or there'll be metal. Um, you'll break into a trailer, like a um, research trailer, and there'll be maybe some rarer materials like chemicals or things like that. And at first, that's all great. You're going in every building, you're gathering all these resources because you're like, I don't know what I need. You'll get back to your base and you'll use all of it to build new stuff. But that system really needed to be cooked a little bit more, because as you get to the midpoint, you start to realize there's almost zero reason to explore these zones. Um, unless you really specifically need some fabric or whatever, no, there's no real reward for exploration in this game, which I think is a shame. They could have done something where, like, you know, things more off the beaten path or more hidden have these really rare or valuable resources that you need for something really good or something cosmetic with the car, to really incentivize you spending some more time in these zones. Whereas the way it became is toward the 60 to 80% mark of the game, it was like, all right, I either need these cores for like true upgrades back at the base, which the cores are the main thing and they show up on your mini map. So you can grab them and run. You don't have to explore or do anything. Or it even gets to the point where I don't need the core energy anymore. I'm literally going to get into the zone and as quick as I can get from point
Drive
A
to
to
the
point B,
exit.
at the drive to the exit and get to the next zone. And that just kind of sucks because these games kind of thrive off of that tension and that, like, what's going to happen and what's over that hill. And once that's kind of gone, as enjoyable as the rest is, it just feels like it kind of shatters the illusion a little bit. So I really wish that they had done something more with the loot in this game that really gave you more reasons to explore even into the latter half of the game. Um, and then shoot, what was the other thing? Oh, and the other thing alongside that I was thinking is that the tension that's in the beginning of the game, which this is a problem with a lot of like suspenseful games, is that you can only keep that mirage up for so long. But in this game especially, not to shatter the illusion too much for you, Zach, but like there are dangers in this game, but for the most part, nothing is even close to as dangerous as it feels. And so once you realize that, that takes a lot of the tension out of the game too. And so it's like, I
Hmm.
really wish there were some more true dangers where it's like, shoot,
Things
if I
that
come into
hunt you.
contact, things that hunt you, or like just
Yeah,
something where it's like when it pops up, you're like, oh man,
it's more aggressive, or
I
yeah.
gotta get the heck out of here. Or I'm about to lose everything. Something to really keep that suspense up throughout the game, because once you realize that nothing's really that big of a deal, that the game loses a lot because
I felt that way
um,
too in the 4 hours I played. Is I was hoping there would be more later, but it was kind of like, okay, these anomalies are more just like these little forces of nature, and they can do some damage, they can be a problem, but once you kind of know what they are, you just avoid them, go around
Drive
them,
around them.
and that's kind of it.
yeah,
And you still it's still business as usual, and the tension was already deflating quite a bit from that.
yeah.
And so yeah, I wish there was something added
There
to that,
are
especially as you get further in.
there continue to be more anomalies you discover, and they have danger if you're not careful.
Yeah,
But
Just a persistent serial killer that's always after you.
oh,
yeah,
that sounds
exactly.
horrible. I don't know if I'd have finished that game, but
But
yeah,
so,
there's
like,
just
yeah, if there's like a something more sentient or more aggressive or malicious, like you come across
or
the
just
creature.
more damaging or whatever, like
Yeah,
even the
A more
impending
real threat.
storm. Once you lock in, all right, I'm ready to teleport home, there's a storm that kind of, Fortnite closes in on you, storm of radiation or whatever. And I just feel like even that maybe could be a little more deadly. Just I feel like everything, and you know what, to its credit in this game, I actually would recommend, maybe if you're someone who is listening to this and you're like, oh, I still want to play this game, it sounds really cool. You can go into the settings and you can tweak every little thing. They have great settings for this game. You can turn stuff on, off, you can dial up damage. So maybe I would go in and crank up damage a little bit, make things a little bit more scary. Yeah, you might lose some runs, but I think the game would benefit from it. But yeah, those are kind of some of my main complaints, that I feel like if the game had another year or whatever to cook and really kind of be like, all right, everybody, our loot system is fine, but it also kind of doesn't have a lot of utility beyond the halfway point, because you'll have accumulated so much resources that it's really just not. Let's see how we can further incentivize players even at the mid game to be exploring, to find this one or two very precious resource. And I guess they do have that in a sense, because there are natural resources you're trying to find. Um, which even in the late game you're trying to find these resources. But I feel like it would have been nice if it's like there were more of like, hey, let me park my car, let me walk up this hill and explore this camp of trailers because I really want to find this thing. Or there could be kind of, who knows what could be there. It could be anything. Hello, everybody. It's me from the future. We had some technical difficulties, and we are now going to resume your regularly scheduled Pacific Drive discussion, where I was just mentioning that yeah, it's not like that. Basically, you'll go to a camp and or you won't go to a camp because you'll know, oh, there's going to be fabric, there's going to be metal, there's going to be plastic. I don't really care. There's nothing to find. So, there was more that was said. The one thing I wanted to close with Pacific Drive is just there's a really cool system that I almost forgot to talk about called the Quark system. And when you're out and you interact with anomalies or you damage your car or whatever the case may be, um, it can not only damage the panels on your car, but it can also cause what are called quarks in your car, where when you're when the radio turns on, your wipers start going, or where when you turn on your car, your rear passenger door opens. It's the most annoying system that is so perfect because it adds this extra element of kind of emergent gameplay and chaos, where you're out in the world and you'll take electrical damage to your car or whatever, and then something really weird will start happening with your car that doesn't make a lot of sense, and you just got to kind of keep your crap together and make it back to the garage. And when you're at the garage, the quark system, there's a screen where you can diagnose these quarks, and you will basically have to play a little mini game of diagnostics where it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that when I do this, this happens, and that causes this on my car to do this. And if all the items are true, then it'll give you a thumbs up and it'll say, all right, would you like to run the diagnostics? It'll give you the kit to be able to repair the quark, and you move on from there. If 2 out of 3 are correct, you'll get a check mark on 2, and then the other 2 are not. So you have to continue your diagnostic process and figure out, like, okay, what's actually happening here. The kicker is you only get 5 to 7 guesses per trip back to the garage. So if you are kind of haphazard with your guesses and you're not really trying to figure out what's going on, you'll run out of guesses, and you cannot fix the quark or quarks until you go on another run. Which I think, Zach, you were saying you dealt with something like this, right?
Yeah, I had one, and this is before I knew about the system, where all of a sudden, while I was driving, the hood of my car kept flying up randomly and I couldn't see anything. And then it would like sometimes close. And I was like, it was at the end
Not
when
a
I
problem.
grabbed one of the little stabilizer energy things. So, the world is melting around me and the hood of my car keeps flying up. And to the point where I went off the edge of like a pretty steep like embankment. And I'm just like driving down a cliff, screaming as my hood pops open and close. And I get to the garage and it's fine. I'm like, that was so weird. Like I thought I must have
Like,
hit
what is
something. Like
happening?
I must have hit the button that opens the hood, or it was just like the stable, like the
What chaos?
anomaly did it. I don't know what it was. And then my next trip, it was less urgent, but I'd be like driving and then I'd start backing up or start driving forwards and it would happen again. And I realized every time I change my acceleration forward or backward, the hood would pop open. And so then I was like, okay, something's happening here. And then the next time I was at the garage, it like opened up the diagnostic thing and I had to go, okay, every time I do this, every time you do X, that Y happens. And if you guess right, then it gives you the tools to fix it. So actually a really cool system that adds to the immersion. And I mean, terrible for that to be happening at the moment it was happening, but it's also like one of those really memorable
You're
gaming
always going to
moments.
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
that descent.
The hood flying up
Yeah.
as I'm
Games are
driving off a
always,
cliff.
it's so good. I wish we had that video. Games are always
I
trying to
know.
find ways to make what they call emergent gameplay, where just crazy combinations of things are happening. And that's what this
Yeah.
Just
really
real
does.
time
It really
things.
was. It
It
was a very
creates these
Chaos.
emergent
real
moment.
time chaotic events where you just are like, and what's so great about the system is that they won't always be your hood flying in your face and causing your car to fall off a cliff. Sometimes there'll be just these little things where you'll be driving and you'll take some damage, and then something will happen and you're like, that was weird. Like, why did my car do that? And then you continue on with your expedition, and 10 minutes later, oh, it did it again. And
Hmm.
so in the back of your mind, it's always kind of running. You're like, what is it doing? Why is it doing that? And it's just this thing that sits in the back of your mind. And as you go about your business and you're still really tense and there's all these anomalies everywhere and you're trying to gather these resources, it's always sitting in the back of your mind. And over time you kind of mull on it. And finally you're like, oh, every time this happens, my car is doing this or whatever. It just creates this extra like layer of gameplay that is so good. And the best one that I have, the anecdote I have is um I was out and about, and I don't know if it was the radio in the car or whatever, but like the music kept kind of just fading out and then coming back in this really like undulating, really annoying way, to be honest. Like it was just kind of like, I don't know, like someone kept muffling your ears and then it would go back to normal. And it was just kind of, I thought it was a glitch in the game. It was before I had done too much with the quirk system, and it went on for probably a run or two. I don't know. It was a while, to the point where it was in the back of my mind. I was just kind of like, that's an annoying glitch. Hopefully when I close the game next time, it'll stop or whatever. Um, and at some point I got back to the garage and I was dealing with some other quirks. That's the other crazy part, is you can have like 3 or 4 or 10 quirks at the same time, which can make it really hard to start diagnosing stuff, because like 80 things are happening every time you do something. I had one where the windshield wipers would, I don't remember what was causing it, if it was turning the steering wheel or when I accelerate, but the windshield wipers would either slow down or like speed up based on something. And it was just really, they're really well thought out, really interesting ideas. But anyways, I was diagnosing these quirks, and I was sitting there, and you're in the garage, you're on this quirk screen looking at the diagnostics, and you're just kind of thinking, and then you go back to your car and you turn it on and you pull the shifter and you turn on your windshield wipers and you open doors and you're just like messing with your car trying to see what happens. Then you go back to the screen and you're looking at it. And all the while, the music in the garage continues to do that thing where like it fades out and then comes back. And I'm just like, this is so annoying. And then finally, after a few minutes, I was like, is that a symptom? Is that a quirk? And sure enough, I go in through the diagnostics and I find, in the right folder or menu, that the volume can change. The volume changing is a quirk. And so I get it all correct. I diagnose it. I repair it. And the volume is back to normal. And I was just like, that is such a cool. Like, I wasn't expecting to have one of the coolest puzzle moments in this game that I've ever had. And
Yeah.
that's what the quirk system allows, is for these things to just kind of sit in the back of your mind that you think about, and can be really annoying, but all the while you're just like, this is a genius gameplay mechanic. Like,
It's
what a
and
great addition
it's
to this
such
game.
a unique, interesting puzzle that is so fitting for what this game is too. Like, it's not just a cool puzzle that's also
Yeah,
included.
it's
It's
so
like
inherent with cars. This is
yeah,
what
it's like
cars do.
it's the actual puzzle of old cars. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
So it's really good. Pacific Drive, for all the complaints that we listed, or that I listed, if you like these very, very immersive um, simulation, survival esque, kind of suspenseful games, which is very much the Subnautica. We don't get a lot of them. And if that interests you at all, absolutely go get this game. Go support this game. As far as our discussion goes, it sounds like they've made it to the point where it's running pretty well, even on console.
Yeah.
So this is worth a playthrough. It's memorable, it's distinct, it's unique, and it's something where I will think back to my experience with it, and I may even, it's so specific of an experience that there may even be nights where I'm like, you know what, I want to boot up Pacific Drive, I want to hop into the driver's seat and do a mission or two and just kind of feel what it's like to be back in that world with the rain hitting the top of the car and everything. So
Yep.
okay. From there, Cal, you had a quick wrap up of your thoughts on Nine Souls, because you have defeated Egong since we last
Egon.
spoke.
Yeah. I was like halfway through the game when we did our last episode. So I finished the game since then, and I'll try and just wrap up my brief thoughts since we've already talked about it. Nothing too new from what we talked about. The biggest complaint with the game, I wish there was more depth to the world and exploration. But I mean, the area design, the theming is all excellent. Um, by far, I think the strongest points of the game, which is huge, is the combat and the story. Both, I think, are excellent, very, very high quality. I was surprised by the story, how much I enjoyed it and got sucked into the world and the characters and the relationships. Um, and then the payoff in the end with some of the ending and final moments there. But yeah, I think just the biggest noteworthy thing is the combat. Last time
Yeah,
we talked, I already
combat's
knew the
really good.
combat was good, but like where it reaches by the end of the game, when you have all your abilities and the bosses are just turned up to 11 to fully utilize all those abilities, um, it really, I really think it is the only combat I've played that feels like it properly belongs in a comparison and discussion with Sekiro's combat. And I think it's just as impressive that they pulled that off in a 2D space. Um,
It's definitely the only game to have done that, I think,
yeah,
which is
but I
is
also think
impressive to translate it to a 2D plane.
I think it's wildly impressive that they translated it to 2D. But I also think it works in its favor, that they did that, because if you imitate or take after Sekiro much at all in a 3D game, it's going to be that much harder to separate yourself from Sekiro and be unique. And being in 2D is more impressive, but I also think it made it so much easier for them to really separate themselves and be unique from Sekiro.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they did an awesome job. That Egon fight at the end, I have my complaints about it, but it is a good enough boss fight that I beat all three phases. And when I beat it, it wasn't too clean. And I went back and I spent another half an hour to an hour refighting it, which is another great thing. All good combat games should
yep.
have replayable boss fights, and this game does. So I went back and I replayed Egon for about another 45 minutes to an hour until I got a really clean run where it wasn't perfect, but I didn't use a single heal. And by the end of the fight, I was at about 70 to 80% health still. And I saw it. I was like, I know I can do this. I've got this fight down. I want to spend the extra hour and just have a clean video clip of me just messing up this final boss, because that's the point you got to. And it's very much Lord Ishin. Like
Yeah.
it's very
Using
much like that.
everything
So
you've learned.
yeah.
That I mean, it's the classic Souls boss fight idea, but I feel like Egon just was all of that to the max. Where you get to her first phase and it's just like, oh my gosh, this is really hard, and it feels very
Mhm.
difficult. You get to the point where you reach phase 2, and you get to where phase 1 is
Yeah. Each
it's
new phase
easy.
is like,
Yeah,
this is impossible.
yeah, it feels impossible each new phase,
Yeah.
and then you get to the point where you master each phase and you can do it
You're
without
no
getting
hitting
hit,
each phase. Yeah.
and then it's just so good. So
It's a good
I
game.
think
Glad you
Egon, I'd have to really figure it out, but Egon is at least in the conversation for me to be in my top 10 all time favorite bosses for sure.
Yeah, which is
I'd agree with
impressive.
that.
Yeah,
It's a high bar to hit, so they did
absolutely.
it. They did it. They
So,
did it.
and again, this was their first game, right? As the developers.
I don't know. I don't really
I
know
think it
Oh,
anything
I
was.
about them.
I believe
Probably.
this is their first
That's
game
what I
as a
thought I
studio.
heard.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I mean that's just wildly impressive.
It's a very impressive first game.
It's got a few
Yeah.
flaws, but oh my goodness,
It's a good
they
game.
killed it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, it's hard not to be intrigued by what they do next. So,
Yeah, definitely.
the other game that I had committed to finishing this month finally, because Zach has already completed it, is Alan Wake 2. Was in my backlog, and I jumped into it after Pacific Drive, and ultimately I calvined out of it. I calvined out.
Don't coin that.
Yeah, I calvined out, and I got probably, shoot, I should have checked what chapter I got. Probably to chapter 7 or 8. Maybe
Pretty
not quite
far,
that. Maybe
actually.
not quite the halfway point. Maybe 6 or
Yeah.
7.
You made it a good
Um,
way in.
Yeah, it just isn't for me. It's less control and it's more horror, and I just wasn't vibing with it. I was getting that kind of like taxed feeling from playing it. This game loves to flash something in your screen really quick and just scare the crap out of you, which was, it's kind of fun, but also it's kind of like, hey, that's cheap. That's a cheap trick. Like, stop doing that to me. Um, but mostly it was just I just kind of got bored, to be honest. Like, it just was too much walking simulator and not enough engaging gameplay for me personally. And Zach has a very different opinion. You're welcome to chime in after this. I just, yeah, just ultimately, I just wasn't having a ton of fun with it, which bummed me out because there are some artistic elements to this game that I think are really cool and I really appreciate. I think this game has an excellent use of music, setting music to scenes and to like moments. I loved getting to the end of a chapter and getting a new really cool song that's kind of a crescendo to whatever story moment just happened when you ultimately find Alan Wake for the first time, and you get to it transitions from that kind of sunset scene on the beach where Alan Wake washes up after having disappeared for 10 years, and it cuts from there to a Wide Awake. The song is called Wide Awake, and it's just a really like it's very poignant, the words fit. It just is, it all comes together so well, and artistically they do some really cool things in this game. But from that moment to the next really cool moment was just too far for me. It was just too much of kind of walking around being scared, kind of pick it. It's very much survival horror. It's kind of just that game, and I guess those aren't for me. So I ultimately was just like, I don't want to spend another 10 hours or however many finishing this out. I kind of found the detective elements to be a little lacking. They were a little too, I thought, aesthetically and design wise, visually, very cool. But mechanically, I felt like they were all just kind of set dressing. You didn't really do a lot of detective work. It was kind of held your hand through everything, and ultimately it was just kind of like a fancy way of feeding you information,
Yeah.
which was another thing that I just found less engaging. So there are some elements to this game that are really cool. It just didn't all of it didn't come together to be um, what it needed to be for me to continue. So
Yeah. And I think mileage will vary with this game. For me, I think a lot of the individual mechanics are good to okay, depending on what they are. Um, and if the experience comes together for you, which is going to be a very subjective thing, then I feel like it kind of for me, it transcended that a little bit, and it all was in service of this experience that I thought came together and worked really well, kept me engaged throughout, um, and I was happy with it when it was done. But at the same time, like a lot of individual things, like some of the combat or some of the nitty gritty details of detective work could have been more fleshed out or could have been better. But the focus was more this overall narrative and like almost artistic piece they were making than it was
yeah,
certain gameplay mechanics and loops. And I it's one of those things where I agree with the criticism a little bit, but it also worked for me and it was okay.
yeah,
But if you're really not clicking with it, as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, it might not be worth finishing. And that's just how it goes sometimes. This is
yeah,
kind of a weird game where
yeah. I
I
mean,
think
I
you get
kind of,
5 hours in, you'll know if
yeah,
it's for
you
you or
you
not.
know, and I think that this game is incredibly unique in the way that we just talked about Pacific Drive. Like, there's not a lot of games like this. There might not be another single game like Alan Wake 2. So if it's your speed, you're gonna love it for its weirdness and its uniqueness and its hodgepodge of mechanics. It's gonna click really well for you. But yeah, for me, I just have found over the years, and I've become further entrenched in this feeling after Alan Wake 2. Gameplay matters a lot to me. I cannot. I'm just make a movie, make a show if you're not going to bring the gameplay. Like, I don't want to spend 20 to 30 hours in your game if you're not going to bring the gameplay, and it just felt like the gameplay wasn't there for me. So that doesn't work for me. It kind of had the like Detroit Become Human, or just like these other more narrative, although Detroit Become Human kind of has branching narratives and stories that kind of are an engaging gameplay mechanic, but hopefully that conveys what I mean. Just a game that's kind of leaning a lot more on it being an interactive movie rather than a game, and that's a
Mhm.
bit of an exaggeration. This still is a game. It's not just an interactive movie, but it was too far to that um, extreme for me.
Yeah.
So if you have any other thoughts you want to throw out, speak now or forever hold your peace on Alan Wake 2. I know it's been a year
Yeah.
or two
No,
since you
I
played
liked
it,
Alan
so
Wake. Yeah, I really liked Alan Wake. It's stuck in my memory very strongly. I mean, this Alan Wake is one of those things that you will never forget, and there are some wild moments that are like defining, and you can understand why. I'm forgetting the name of the studio, Sam Lake and
You'll
his
never
team. You'll
forget.
never forget. Who are they? You'll never forget
What
what
was the
they've
game
done
called?
if you even if you forget what who they are. Um,
I love
no,
his finish. I love the two detectives. I love the scenes where they're side by side, like drinking their coffee and
yeah,
just like I love the weird Finnish vibe of like what's his name?
twin.
The brothers.
Oh,
Um
I forget what the brothers' names
shoot, I'm
are.
forgetting their names, but they're little commercials where like
Yeah,
he's so awkward and Finnish and kind of exuberant, and the other brother's like this really deadpan bad actor. I loved the humor and the characters at times for sure.
yeah,
So
and it had the weirdness, and so it's good. It stands out. I think play a few hours, you'll know if this is for you or not. Um, but I don't feel like it's one of those games I want to go back and replay because it is stressful, it is weird, it is
yeah,
obtuse
for
at
sure.
times. So it's kind of it's like an acquired taste or a very specific taste. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad you
just so you
tried it.
know, if you liked Control, you might not like Alan Wake 2 because I love Control.
Yeah,
And that's part of what pushed me to continue this game as long as I did. Is it's same universe, same developer, obviously a different style game, but I was just like, I love Control. I love the control elements, the anomalies, the weirdness, but it just what liking one does not mean you like the other, and that's the verdict I came to. So
yeah, there you
there you
go.
have it. Let's go, Zach. What do you got? What else did you play?
um so I finished Tinykin in February,
Oh
What
yeah,
a
which is an
game.
jeez, that feels like
indie
a year ago.
platformer by I think Splash Team or something like
I
that.
don't know who it's
um
by, but
that yeah, they're a small team. So it's a kind of an
Geniuses.
old school 3D platformer collectathon, very much in the style of like N64
Splash
games
Team.
or
Yeah,
PS2 games, where you have a little character and you're in a little 3D world collecting a bunch of things and going through levels and figuring out how to like get to different parts of the platform to
yeah.
different
A
areas and
platform,
get more of your
a
stuff.
platform collectathon Pikmin like.
Yeah, and it has yeah, that's right. It has a Pikmin element where you have that's what the Tinykin are, and you get a bunch of different types of Tinykin that can do different things, like blow things up or pick things up, or connect an electric circuit to
Serve as
power
a
a
ladder for
device.
you.
Yeah, so all sorts of um, very similar to Pikmin. So yeah, it's basically an old school 3D collectathon platformer with a Pikmin element, and that is such a good mix. It feels very much just like an old school video game, and it felt like being 8 or 10 years old again. On summer break, coming home from the swimming pool, and then putting on your N64 game and just playing around.
Yeah,
But it also didn't feel super dated somehow. Like it felt like that time frame, but the controls were smooth and modern. And like one great example of this is instead of just kind of slowly running around, because you're like a little character, it's kind of a Honey I Shrunk the Kids thing where you're little in a giant house and you're
yeah. Kind of
exploring it
got
as
that
if
Toy
it's this.
Story feel.
Totally. But instead of just kind of slowly running everywhere, you also have a little surfboard that is actually just a bar of soap. And so you hop
Soap
on that
surfing.
and you surf
It's one of
around,
the
and
best gameplay. It feels so good to use that
it's so
stupid
easy.
thing.
You just hold R, press
There's
R
no
and R1 and
cooldown. There's no nothing. You just hop
nothing.
on
You
it
just
and you're
hop on it and
surfing
you zip
around.
around. And
So
And it's
good.
if
not like it's not just like designated areas you can do it. It's just like if there's
anywhere,
a corner or an edge, like you can just grind on that.
well, that's
Or
the cool
just
thing is
like
you can ride it anywhere. But then
yeah,
yeah,
you I forgot
if
you can
there's an
literally just do it
edge,
on flat ground too.
yeah, if there's an
Mhm.
edge or a corner of anything, you grind it, which it makes
Yeah.
is even more satisfying. And
Yeah.
then there are these little spider web things you connect that are sort of shortcuts between various platforms within
Zip
a
lines or
given
grinding
zone or
lines.
zip lines or whatever. And you grind those on your little soap thing too, and it just makes it's like you're zipping around this whole map. And then you also have a little glider bubble, kind of like Breath of the Wild, but it's like a little soap bubble, and it allows you to float down. But the angle of descent is really like a low. It's not steep at all, so
Yeah,
you can
you
glide
glide quite a ways. Yeah.
pretty far. And then over the course of the game, you increase the duration. You can have this glide bubble. So between the glide bubble and your soap bar, you're
And
zipping all over.
they know how good the movement feels because they even add in these like
Little time trials.
almost Tony Hawk type time
Yeah.
trials where like
That's right.
you're
Yeah.
you're you're running a course around the kitchen or the bedroom or the
And you have to
the
like
Yeah.
hit
bathroom,
checkpoints and
and you have to hit checkpoints at a certain time, and you're grinding, and then you're you're jumping off into a bubble and floating and then grinding and you're trying to cut shortcut and you're like trying to really be quick around this room, and all
Yeah.
of the little movement abilities
Optimize it.
interconnect so well. It
Yeah.
just feels so good to move around this world. They
Yeah.
nailed the movement.
And so it's like a
Which
fun
is great for a
platformer
platformer.
with fun collecting all sorts of things with a nice theme of being a little visitor in this giant house.
Yeah.
And then the Pikmin element of like collecting your different colors and types of Pikmin that you use to unlock different puzzle or like, to do different things to solve puzzles around the house.
Yeah, you've got
That
like
paired
red
with amazing
Pikmin that are
movement.
like strong and they can lift objects, I think. And then you've got blue Pikmin, which are electrical and you can use to connect electrical
Yeah.
circuits. My favorite and one of the best mechanics ever, just like, I don't know, maybe in a video game, were the green Pikmin, dude. I loved the stacking Pikmin.
Yeah.
Just that way it felt to, I think you like hold L2 or something. And if
Yeah.
you have 20 green Pikmin, your character will just bloop, 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 like on top
What
of
I-
them.
And the
I
sound
love
design
about
and all
that-
It's
of it.
so good.
I think about something like Astrobot, where in Astrobot, you could use your Astrobots you collected in the main area to like form a ladder or a bridge, but you'd have to
Yeah.
wait for them to all climb each other. And you're just
Yeah.
kind of standing there bored, especially if it takes like 50 of them until you can finally start climbing them. Whereas with this, like you just start holding L1 and they just start.
Yeah. The
stacking.
tactile feedback, the immediacy of it, and the sound design of it is just
And the
so
control, you can control like, you could stack
it's
20
so
out of
good.
50.
Yeah,
and,
you could
those
stop
certain-
whenever you're done.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it
And
was
it's
just
very
very well
quick.
thought out,
Oh,
very
man.
quick, seamless. So if you like platformer collectathons, if you liked Pikmin, you like kind of old school N64 feeling games that just control, like they have all the modern conveniences, and it works for my like
Yeah.
attention span lacking brain, but still feels like the old school game. So it was really good. I had a blast playing it. It's one of those games that, like, I don't know where it sits on my favorite games of all times list, because it's not in the conversation with certain games, but it's also kind of perfect for what it is too. So it's like, if you like that type of game, this is pretty
It's
much
a 10 out of
perfect.
10 for what it is. Yeah. And
Yep,
as I
another
think
one of
back to
those.
it, I'm just like, there's no way that Tinykin is not on my top 30, at least, maybe top 20. Like, it's just
It's good.
that good.
Yeah,
And I would go so far as to say, if you like video games and you are not bored by platformers, you have to play this game, because it's that good. Like, I don't even know that it needs to be more specific than that. If you know that you're not like just immediately bored by platformer collectathons, then you should play this game.
Yeah.
Because
If you like
it is,
platformer collectathons at all, you will, I can guarantee pretty much that you'll enjoy this game.
yeah. So
So,
it's,
it's
man,
good.
it was so good. I was sad when it was over. I'm looking at
Same.
their website. Unfortunately, they haven't announced it. There's no Tinykin 2. They're working on something called Project Acornia, which is like a isometric, it's similar but different art style, but it looks like it's more of a shop management, go out and collect resources and upgrade your shop thing, which looks kind of fun but kind of bums me out. It's interesting though, they have the same,
I just want
your
more Tinykin.
I know your little character from Tinykin is in this though, as like someone who comes and shops at the
Oh, that's
bakery
funny.
or whatever, which is
Yeah.
kind of a funny nod to that. But
I mean, I might give it a
Um,
try. Like, they did such a good game.
I'll
They
try
did such a
whatever
good
they
job
do.
with this
Yeah,
game.
absolutely. But
They're probably
I
pretty
also
good, but-
know for a fact that all I want is just more Tinykin.
Yeah,
I
and I
know.
hope maybe after
it's one of those
Project
games where if they
Acorn-
just yeah, I hope they continue it too. It's one of those games where if they just came out with a DLC where it's like, here's 3 more rooms for Tinykin, it could be $60. I'd probably buy it. Like, it's just, I just want more,
even
Careful
though
what you say.
Tinykin's like $20,
Exactly.
so it is
Yeah.
good. I recommend it. You should try it.
Glad you got to it. It's one of those
Mhm.
that's like, yeah, you got to play. It's one that could fall by the wayside, but it
It's-
needs to not to, because it's so
It-
good.
I mean, I feel it's a must play. You gotta play that game. It's
It's a
good.
must play. If you have joy in your heart, you should play Tinykin.
Yeah,
If you would like to rekindle some joy in your heart, you should play Tinykin.
that's kind of why I did
If
it.
you're
I had
lacking joy and you need to,
I had a
fix that.
stressful February, and it's been, there's just a lot going on, and so I was like, this is going to be a nice chill game. So
Yeah, for sure.
there we go. What else we got, Levi? So I actually have 2
What do you
more.
got? Yeah, 2
So-
more. I've got 2 more, but I'll be quick because it's my monthly. Well, we need a theme song and like a jingle. It's my
A
monthly
woo-wah.
woo-wah discussion.
Oh no!
Woo-wah, he's
they
at
came out
it
with a-
again. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Oops, I woo what again.
Oops, I woo-wah again. That's not bad, Calvin. This is a good brainstorming session.
Mhm.
No, they came out with a 2.1 update with new characters, blah blah blah. But just kind of the main thing I want to call out is they they added a whole new like little tiny region of a cluster of islands, and the whole gimmick behind this was basically dredge. And if you haven't played dredge, you go around on your ship, and this is kind of an eldritch horror game, but basically you go around on your ship and you fish, you collect fish, and then there's a Tetris thing on your ship where you have to fit the fish onto your ship, and some of them take up more space and less space, and you fill your hull, then you go back and you sell your fish, upgrade your boat, rinse and repeat, catch weirder and bigger fish. They straight up rip dredge and put it in this game, and I commend them for it because it's a cool update. You literally go around, and it's a break in the pace of, the combat in Wuwa is excellent, but this was a lot of fun. You get a little boat, you go around, there's a whole story quest related with it that was actually pretty good. And you slowly upgrade your boat, catch bigger and better fish, sell it, upgrade your boat. They added in the weird element. You can catch like anomaly fish and stuff, and they straight up ripped off Dredge. But Dredge is a great game, so it was just a great event, and it was kind of like a, hey, if you have one of these games and you're trying to think of events, rip off cool indie games and make them your events in your game, because no one wants to sit there and play, match the two cards. Like some of these
Endorsing
events
plagiarism.
yeah, some of these events in gacha games are so bad that it's just like you're only playing them to get the currency, to get more characters, but at the same time, life is valuable and we shouldn't be sitting there doing the most pointless thing ever just for a couple schmeckles. So, anyways, there's my spiel. Good on Wuwa. Like, their events are fun. I don't want to have a Wuwa. I don't want to have a game that I am playing continually, but I just enjoy the game and it's just fun and I have fun playing it, and it's fun to log in. They keep adding new content that's fun to engage with. So here we are. Had a lot of fun with
Nice.
it though.
I'm glad you're having fun with it still. I'm glad somebody likes Wuwa. It actually sounds like there's probably a lot of people that like Wuwa.
There's a lot of people. Yeah.
And hey, I'm with you. If you're gonna play a game like that where you need to get your schmeckles to get more characters, you might as well have mechanics ripped off from other really fun games so that you're having a good time with it.
Use some good inspiration. At least there's so many games out there. It's like, if you're doing really dumb stuff in the game, I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah.
I could get into the whole drama. There's all this drama about Genshin versus Wuwa and Genshin just imploding. Genshin wasted my time for way too long, man. They still don't have a skip button on their dialogue. They still want you to sit through 4 hours.
They got to do something
are
like that.
proud of the story that they've written.
They must be, or I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, we can move on. What, Calvin? Do you have any more, or should we go to Zach?
I have barely a few more, but they're probably, if you're gonna talk about demos at all, that's all I was gonna.
No, I'm not gonna do demos.
Okay, that's it.
I have so many demos that we couldn't even begin to. I'm gonna have to do a different video on my own or with Zach or whatever on demos.
Well,
Steam Next Fest was awesome.
All I have left is a few demos, so
Okay.
I'm done.
Zach, what else you
Save
got?
it for the demo video, I guess. So I have two more. One of which, Levi, I know you've played. So I'll start with the one that you haven't played, and that is I played Gree, which is by Nomada Studios, I think. Their more recent game is Neva, which came out a month or two ago, and I played that and I liked it a lot. And so Levi, you had been recommending Gree for years at this point, which was one of their earlier games. And so I was like, I should just do it. Like, I already really liked Neva, so I should play Gree. And I had it on my Steam Deck. Perfect for a Steam Deck game. It's like I don't know, like a puzzle platformer, very artistic.
It's a 2D. It's a 2D side-scrolling game that's very Journey-esque, but it has, to me, it's more engaging. It does have some puzzle elements,
a few platforming elements too,
and platforming that are engaging. So, but it's mostly an emotional story.
Yeah, and it's so good.
Very
I think
symbolic.
So
that's my question. You liked it more than Neva?
I think I liked it more than Neva. Yeah,
because the gap between me playing them was so long, it was hard to say. But I just remembered liking Gree more than Neva.
I think I like Gree more. Yeah,
Gree impacted me more. I think I enjoyed the puzzle mechanics more in Gree, though it's hard to remember.
Yeah, I did. I think I enjoyed the puzzle mechanics, the thematic resonance, and then just the overall aesthetic. I think I like all of those more. Neva is still really good. I came out of Neva thinking that is an awesome experience for what it is. Short, beautiful, emotive, moving.
Yeah.
The same all applies to Gree, but I think Gree is more interesting. There's not really
Well, that's cool
combat,
because I
but
hoped I hoped coming out of you were really positive on Neva, and I was like, man,
yeah.
if you like Neva, I think you'll really like Greek because I think I
Hmm.
liked it better, and I'm glad that that's relatively true. So
Yeah, yeah, I like Gree better. Gree, so it's a very metaphorical story. I don't even know
it's
what would
basically the seven
constitutes.
stages of grief, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's basically a girl who's coming from like depression or like a very dark place, like something
I
has
thought it
been
was a
eating.
loss, and she was
Yeah,
grieving a loss, and
she's
you're
like
kind of symbolically traversing and platforming through the seven stages of grief. That's what
yeah,
I
and at the
remember.
beginning you like lose all color, and
Yeah,
everything's kind of gray, which gray. Um, and then as you progress through the game, you reawaken colors kind of within yourself, and there's a lot of like very metaphorical things about her journey, but it's like an internal journey too.
I thought the
And
symbolism was so on point in that
the
game.
symbolism was great. The music was, as always with Nomada Studios, the music was beautiful and epic and deeply moving. The art style is absolutely stunning. It just as you get more colors, and it's just so stylistically unique and interesting and beautiful. And then the puzzle
Is it?
mechanics were
I
really
feel like I
fun.
remember. I feel like I remember the art style being a little bit more defined, whereas Neva kind of was a little more not watercolory, but kind of like fuzzy
Yeah, I would.
watercolory.
Soft.
Whereas
There's
Gree a little softer, whereas Gree had a little bit more defined lines and
I would
and
say,
structure to its.
yeah, I would say Gree
Isn't that
has like
right?
fine lines, hard lines
More
over
contrast.
watercolor. There's still that watercolor element, especially as the colors bloom, but the
Yeah,
the kind of the lines overlaying it are more definitive and sharp
yeah, that's
brush
fair because they are
strokes, I
very
would say.
similar. But there was a
Whereas
difference that I was trying to
Neva
figure out the
has less
nuance.
of like those like harsher brush strokes overlaying the watercolors. It feels more like an actual watercolor scene.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's true,
So what
but
about you were talking about puzzles? I didn't mean to
the
interrupt that.
puzzles, I think, were really interesting. It's a mix of platforming and traversal and like getting kind of little glowing orbs that unlock things that progress you to a new area. um, Running from kind of metaphorical thing darknesses like within you, and the kind of the equivalent of the boss fight in this game is it's kind of like Ori and the Blind Forest, where you're running from something and there's maybe some platforming involved, and that's sort of the boss encounter.
Yeah, there's no direct combat in this game, right?
Yeah, and I think that worked really well, and i
I think
you
it
know i
did too.
i
I
loved
found the
Neva
combat to be a
too, but
little bit boring in Neva to
I'd
the point
agree.
where
I
I'm
feel
like, I
like,
wish they'd have just forgone the combat and made it more like Gree.
yeah, it felt like there was nothing wasted in Gree, whereas with Neva, it was still very streamlined and overall great. Like I didn't really feel anything dragged too much, but with Neva, I could argue you could argue that maybe there's a little bit
A little bit mash and square too much.
yeah, just a little. So anyway, it was good. Gree's beautiful. It took
Cool.
me, I don't know, a couple of evenings to beat on my Steam Deck. Both Gree and Neva are both highly worth it in my
Yeah, don't mean to
opinion.
bag too much on Neva. It's
Yeah,
still
Neva's
worth playing.
I came away from Neva thinking that was a great game for what it is. And I think Gree is just even better and more unique and interesting. So I'm so glad I played it. It was great.
Yeah, I look forward to
I
what else
still
they
haven't
do.
played
Do you
either of
remember?
them, but
Do you remember me playing Gree though? You watched me play Gree. Do you
yeah,
remember that?
I remember like I have like one
Vague memory.
scene that I feel like I remember like running through something, and I have kind of a clear picture of that, but I think that's it. So if I
You
were to
should
Well,
play
if
it,
you
I'm
play.
pretty
ever
sure it would
if
be
you ever have
mostly brand
an
new.
itch, if you ever have an itch for like a more emotional, simple game you can play in a night or two on your Steam Deck, it's worth checking out. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
for sure,
I fully intend to play both games. I just it's whenever it
it's a
fits
matter
in,
of
but
when.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
And the fact
know
that,
I already know I'm gonna like them, and I'm just it's kind of
yeah,
saving it for when I want to.
especially since you're like an artist, and like I think you'll
Yeah,
appreciate the artistry of it. Like
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really cool. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go then. To wrap up the month, I jumped into. I was trying to kind of match the theme here we were going for, obviously, with some kind of spooky, scary, suspenseful things, and I have had in my backlog for a while. The Last Case of Benedict Fox.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting. I
And
didn't
I
know you
was
played
like, you
that.
know what? That is exactly the right feel for like Pacific Drive or whatever. Let's jump into that. It's kind of an eldritch horror, um, Lovecraftian. It has a lot of like, it's a really good mix of like cosmic horror, but also kind of Sherlock noir. Which, I mean, just saying those four words together sounds like a pretty cool time.
Yeah, it's a
And
good mix.
it does that. It does that really well. And you know what?
But
To
is
be
it
honest, for my
Tron Noir?
Tron Noir, what was that from? Tron
Uh,
Noir. I can't remember all of
Liminal?
our
I don't
references,
remember. I don't
Calvin.
remember. I just
Tron
remember
Noir.
Tron
That sounds
Noir.
awesome. Um, so for this game came out a while back, and it got pretty bad reviews. It was 60s. I remember because I had it on our Fantasy Critic a couple years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and I was like, "What the actual heck?" It got like a 67. I lost points on it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was kind of shocking because this looked really cool. It was on my radar, and so I was really bummed by that. And it was one of those where the scores really just kind of, all right, this kind of fell to the bottom of my backlog. Still kind of on my radar, but reviews can have that effect on you, and they're not always accurate. Anyways, for my first like hour or so, I was having Timesia thoughts. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this does not feel like a 60 something to me. Like this is popping off. This is clicking. I love all the elements here. Um,
Injustice.
so Injustice, but I will say, I did not play this game at launch, and I've, over looking at some things and whatever, this game did come out with terrible performance. And I will say to this day, the worst part about this game is the performance. And it's really sad because
Mm.
it's a 2D game, so you just kind of hate to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Performance is still not great. It's playable, but you will not get consistent frame rates on any device. I've played it on my full PC. I've played it on Steam Deck. You get stutters. You get kind of some visual glitching here and there. It's noticeable. And normally I'm one who that matters a lot to, but I guess maybe it's a testament that I'm playing through that because I enjoy the game a lot, and it's not game breaking. It is still playable. And I think it's a game worth playing through that. I've seen a lot of different critiques about the puzzles, about the exploration, about the combat. The other thing I can attest to is it sounds like they came out with a definitive version, which was a full on update for the game. And it sounds like they changed some things with combat. I'm not sure to what extent. It kind of sounds like they added the pistol, which if that's the case, then yeah, combat probably sucked terribly before that because the pistol is such a cool part of the combat. I don't know if they changed the pistol or added the pistol. I don't know. So if you're someone out there who's like, yeah, it was terrible, fine. But as of today, um, I guess let me start with like setting and theming. You kind of start off in this very Clue-esque house. It kind of has this Clue detective feel to it. And you're going kind of from room to room, exploring this manor or this mansion. And the whole premise is you are exploring the limbo of like your late father and mother that you didn't really know much about, and trying to uncover the mystery behind this organization that they were a part of and what happened to them, with all of these kind of like ethereal otherworldly things happening as well. And so just the setting is really cool. You have the mansion is kind of your hub, with like, you've got the I don't know, would it be a dining room where you have like the chair and the fireplace and the books, and then you go to the study, and then you've got like out in the courtyard you have this really nice, the art style is fantastic. I wish this game performed better because it looks so good. Like it is just, I don't know, they nailed the look of this world, and it's screenshot worthy just about everywhere you go. So and then when you go down into the limbo, it's just this really cool mix of like underground caverns with like alien creatures and purple walls, and then there's like, this floating chair and coffee table in the background that looks like, it's part of a Clue house, but it's in this
Mm.
otherworldly. It's just a really cool aesthetic.
Control upside down.
Control, yeah, it's got some control elements, but like if Control were in the 1920s or something. um so the setting is really cool. um the combat, I actually really enjoy the combat, which I've seen a lot of. Maybe the update fixed a lot of it, but like the combat basically consists, you have a knife, just a knife, and you have like a 3-hit square combo, and that feels pretty bad to use. It's pretty weak, but the whole premise is that when you use your knife, you can also parry. If enemies attack and you hit R1 at the right
I
time,
love a
you'll
parry.
it's got a satisfying parry. I will say the parry is really hard to hit. I don't know if it has to do with maybe enemies telegraphing their abilities better, or if I think the timing is just really tight on it, where we've gotten accustomed to them kind of loosening up the timing on stuff like that. I do find it hard to hit the parries, but they're satisfying when you hit them. And anyways, your main combat in your parry system charge your pistol, and when your pistol is charged, you push L1 or your left bumper to basically pull out and draw your pistol, and then you can aim it and shoot. And it's very powerful. It's very satisfying. It will one hit most enemies,
Hmm.
but then you're out and you have to go back and recharge it. And then there's upgrades later in the game where you can upgrade your pistol to have 2 bullets or 3 bullets, or to quicker charge your bullets with attacks. And it just, I guess the best way to describe it is it's very satisfying. Like when you hammer a parry and then you attack and then you dodge back and pull out your pistol and shoot, it has this really meaty sound to it, and it's very, like, you feel the impact of the pistol, and it just feels really satisfying to use. And the enemies,
It
like
sounds
I
like it
said, it's very,
creates a good
it's a
cycle.
good gameplay loop. Like, then you jump back in and you do a few daggers, then you dash out and pistol, and it's just like, and they're done.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy the combat. It feels very tactile and satisfying. Um, I guess the way to put it is, in a lot of games, you're like, does it have weight? Oh, the combat doesn't have weight to it. The pistol has weight to it, which I guess is a weird thing to say, but like, it does.
Recoil.
And yeah, it's the recoil, it's the sound. So enjoy the combat. And then the other thing is the puzzles. The puzzles are really good in this game. I've enjoyed them. I can see how some people, and I've seen complaints about maybe them being too obtuse or whatever. There's a moment or two where I'm like, oh, if I hadn't figured that out in that way, I could see how maybe it would be really hard to figure that out later, or how puzzles can be. But I've really enjoyed it. I feel like it doesn't tell you a lot, which can be to the detriment or the boon of any puzzle game. It depends on if you figure it out or not. But like, I've just really enjoyed. One of the main puzzles in the game is you learn about this symbol system, which is used to convey a number in one symbol. And I think you guys have probably seen that in other things, where it's like, you have a line, and in this quadrant, if it does something, that's the one column. In this quadrant, it's the tens, hundreds, thousands. And so you kind of come to learn this number system, and it applies to a lot of puzzles that you find throughout the limbo or the house. And you have this gadget you can pull out to create, any number that you like, and then emit that frequency, and it'll open a door for you or whatever. And they use that to pretty good effect. Like, that's just one of the core puzzle mechanics. There's another Metroidvania upgrade you get later that allows you to open these really grotesque looking alien doors. And it kind of has this, it reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima when you're chopping
The bamboo strikes
the bamboo, which is just really sad. We love to push the right buttons in the right order really quick. That's
quickly.
a satisfying gameplay mechanic. This isn't that hard, but it is that. You go into it and you have to push these 6 buttons in a row really quickly in the right order, or the door will reject you or whatever. And it's just, I've found a lot of the Metroidvania mechanics, the traversal and the puzzles, to be pretty fun. This is a minor spoiler, but I don't know if you guys will ever get to this, and it's not that big of a deal. But the loading screen is actually like a detective board, and it kind of reminds me of Alan Wake or whatever. That
That's
detective
cool.
board you're
Yeah.
looking at. And at first, I was kind of annoyed because the loading screen doesn't automatically end and put you into the gameplay. You have to push A. So there'd be times where I'm sitting there waiting, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's been saying push A for a while," and I'm like, "That's kind of annoying. I wish they hadn't done that." Couple out, like several hours into the game, I started looking at the loading screen. I'm like, this is an active detective board. Like, if you don't push A, you can actually move around the board and zoom in, and you can see like threads that you've been pulling at, and like different characters and different items you're looking for. And like, if something you haven't found, there'll be like an arrow to a bubble with a question mark. And so I was like, you could actually legitimately use this as like a, where do I go next, or what threads haven't I figured out fully? And I just thought that was really cool. Like, several hours into the
That's
game,
really
I just
interesting.
kept treating it as a loading screen and hitting A. And then I just took a second and looked at it, and I was like, this is actually like interactive a little bit. So
That's
I
cool.
just feel like they're doing a lot of cool things in this game, and I wish that it ran better. And I wish that it ran better at launch, because I think that there's some really cool ideas in this game that are really well executed. I'm enjoying exploring this world. I'm enjoying pretty much all the mechanics. This is this is at least an 8 out of 10 without the performance issues. And even as it is right now, it's 8 to 8.5, even factoring in performance issues. So it's a
Wow.
bummer when a game gets so much right, but just releases too early and
Yeah.
Yeah.
gets a 65 because, it's kind of broken and you can't play it at launch or whatever. And you can't really
Yeah.
come back from that. So
That's a bummer because I was so interested in that game, and then because of that score, I never paid attention to it again.
yeah, how
I'm
many
glad you
people
played
probably
it.
never touched it? So
I'm glad you played it because I
It
am
just
still
really
interested in
crippled
it
it.
conceptually, and I might actually get around to it at some point. So
yeah, it's
that's
it's
cool. Sounds
adding
awesome.
It sounds
it's
awesome.
doing a really cool, like, it's a good Metroidvania, but it's also kind of it's really hitting kind of that detective feel and vibes. It's not like a
Mhm.
full on detective game, but it has enough little pieces here and there where you feel like you're figuring stuff out. It has enough puzzle elements where I guess you would say that's puzzle elements are not necessarily part of a Metroidvania. So it's a
Yeah.
Metroidvania detective puzzle type game with obviously a Lovecraftian setting. So if you're someone who skipped it because of the scores, I would say it's worth checking out. Know that the performance is still not great. You are still going to get stutters and things, but I'm notoriously someone who doesn't play through that, and I've been able to manage. Okay, so I haven't
Sounds
finished it
awesome.
yet though.
Sounds awesome.
Verdict's still out. I wasn't able to finish it before this recording, but I'm probably at least halfway through it.
Awesome.
So there you have it. That's all for me. What's your last one, Zach?
Well, I'll just briefly touch on it because I'm not done with this game, and
So
I'll
maybe
want to
we'll
talk
talk more
about
next
it
month.
more next month. If I manage to
And
finish
the
it by
month
next
after
month.
that.
Yeah, this is a huge game. I picked up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on release
Oh
day.
my gosh, I forgot about this game. How are we this far into the podcast and we're just
I
getting to
think
this?
let's save it because I know you played some of it too. I know you have complaints, but you also played uh, um, some of it. So I feel like there's probably an interesting conversation there.
Yeah,
But let's
don't you want
pull.
to hear my critiques?
I do, but we're like 2 hours in and I have to leave. So um,
Cancel your plans, Zach. Oh, I can't
maybe
believe that we
send me
got to
your
this whole
critiques
thing.
individually, but then we'll
Shoot,
have our
man.
podcast discussion next month because I want to play more before I say it too. Because I was talking to my brother who's playing this, and he was like, "Oh yeah," because I played more than he has. I probably put 20 hours into this. I think he'd put like 12, and he was like, "Oh yeah, so where I did this main story thing where this happened," and I'm like, "I'm not there yet." And he was like, "Oh shoot, I'm sorry," and it's because this game
It's
is so
because that's how the
humongous
game is. Yeah, yeah.
that I'm like off
Is that
gallivanting
Ethan or
across
Max?
medieval.
Who's playing it?
Ethan's playing it. Yeah, but
Can't ever
I'm just
tell which of
off.
your brothers will play what. It's always such a
Yeah. So anyway, what I will say today is that this is probably a contender for game of the year for me personally. This is the type of game that is an 11 out of 10 for a very specific type of person, but is also kind of uh, quirky at times, or like there's a little jank to it too, which I think in some ways really works. But there are things to criticize about this game, although I think this is one of the best RPGs in modern history. And I'm like 25 hours into this game and I am absolutely loving it. I'm not ready to stop. I just want to keep going with it.
yeah.
So we'll talk more next month. I know,
Let
Levi,
me
you have some criticisms.
Yeah, I just gotta say this game sucks. Is terrible.
All right.
No, I
Well,
feel like
I'll
you
go
were
ahead and
super
edit it
I
right
feel like
there.
you were super hesitant about that whole thing, but like I'm totally kidding. I love this game. I
Oh,
was
do
like
you? Oh,
I was
cool.
trying to leave you hanging this whole time and make
That's
you like
great.
So
feel like I was gonna
You
bag
love
on
it.
it.
Oh,
It's incredible. This game is
that
phenomenal.
okay, that
Levi likes it.
I was gonna ask, and that is different than what I was expecting because I haven't touched this
Uh,
game at all. I know next to nothing about it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
from what I had heard from Zach, it sounded like something that I could really be into, but maybe not. I just wasn't sure.
I think you should try it.
So Levi, your opinion, like, what as far as me maybe
I
giving
mean,
giving it a shot?
this is the RPG of all RPGs that we've had, probably since. I mean, I haven't played Cyberpunk with its updates. Maybe Cyberpunk is on a similar level. Everyone kind of just goes back to Skyrim and Oblivion, which is I didn't play those games.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say
legitimately,
this is
we
on that.
haven't had
This is the spiritual successor, I think,
yeah
to Oblivion
we
and
and which
Skyrim.
is crazy. How old are those games? 20 years, 15?
Skyrim is like 13 or 14 years old, and then
Yeah.
Oblivion, yeah, 20.
So we've
Around
kind of
20.
as a as a gaming medium, we have had the bastardization of RPGs for so long. Ubisoft kind of really just, maybe it wasn't them originally, but like we've had the dumbing down of RPGs for decades at this point. And don't get me wrong, I have fun with them, but I really haven't had a taste of what a true RPG feels like, because every game is an RPG to an extent, 5%, 20%. Like it's become so watered down, and most companies are afraid to have an in-depth what it is RPG. They want to simplify systems and make it easier and have a broader appeal, blah blah blah. And so this is really, I feel like this is probably my first experience with an RPG of that lineage, of these games that people look back to with so fondly. And I gotta say, man, it could do with some better tutorialization, blah blah blah. But like games, we live in an era of YouTube and internet where games need to err more on the side of being weird and complex than being dumbed down. Because I'm just so
Totally
tired
agree.
of dumbed down games. And as intimidating as KCD2 was in at the outset, and it is intimidating. You'll get into the menu and look at your character, and just like everything, just like Pacific Drive, you're like, what am I looking at? It takes that, you have to get over that hump. But watch a YouTube video, watch 2 YouTube videos. We
Hmm.
live in that era. Like, who cares? And once you understand everything, all of the systems are so good. And we'll talk more about it next month. I won't go into it, but I am just really, this is my first legitimate RPG that I played, and it's unabashedly, it's unabashedly what it wants to be, and it does it so well. I will say, I'm on PC. First thing I did, downloaded a mod where I can save whenever I want. I don't abuse it or anything, but the save system is straight up trash in this game. They need to get rid of it. I understand why they did it, but it's annoying because early on I had to redo the same section like 3 times because I kept thinking it was saved when I closed the game and it wasn't. It was just annoying. So I just have a thing where like now I can save it, periodically so that I don't lose random
Your
progress for no
progress, yeah.
reason. And then the other thing is I downloaded a mod where when I pick up plant or flowers or like herbs, it skips the animation. Because holy crap, just the intro,
It takes a
I
while.
was like, if he's gonna do this cut scene to like him picking up every time, nah. So there's a
Yeah,
couple things, but like I just wanted to mess with you and like
that's
kind of
hilarious.
put you on your heels that like, no, this game sucks. I can't wait to complain about it to you. No, this game is a masterpiece, and I'm probably 20 hours in and I haven't gotten to the main story beat either. It's just
Yeah,
one of those games where
we're
you just
probably in
wander
a
around and
similar place.
you just do stuff and you
Mm.
meet people and
But the
you just
story's
kind of, you're
good.
like,
Like
the story is good.
the main
Yeah.
story's really good, and then all of the side quest stories have been really good and
All the
interesting and
content's
unique.
engaging, and you just kind of wake up each day and you're like, all right, what should I
What
do
am I
this
doing
day?
today?
Should I
Yeah.
go do this? Should I get some good sleep tonight, or am I about to rob this village blind tonight? Like,
It has that Breath of
it's
the Wild
just,
thing where it's like I'm trying to do this thing, but then I see something on the horizon, and I'm like, let me go check that out, or like, let me
it's
just
so
go do
The
good.
the
this thing real
shiny the
quick, and
shiny
it
thing
leads to
syndrome.
yeah,
And it looks so good. We get so many
it looks
games that come
so
out and they
good.
run like crap and they look like crap. Calvin's playing Uncharted 4 right now, and I'm like, dude, you know what? I bet you that game looks better than most games that still come out to this day.
And
And
I think it
sadly,
kind of
that's
does.
true. And KCD2 looks like a game that came out in 2025. It
It
looks,
looks
and it
really good.
runs well.
Mhm.
I don't have the top of the line PC anymore. I'm running a 3080, which is a good PC, but not the best. And I can run this at pretty much maxed out settings at 70 frames a second in 4K. And it just looks, the lighting, get everything looks so good in first person, getting on your horse and riding around, and combat's weird, but once you get used to it, it has a charm to its quirkiness. Anyways,
So
we'll have a lot more to talk about next month.
I don't know if either of you guys would know, but you guys are both playing it on PC. Like, do you know how is it still
Not a clue.
comparable on console? Do you know?
Probably not comparable, but if it runs decent at 60 frames, that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean the game is the
I don't
game,
know.
so like I think the game will still be very enjoyable and satisfying.
As
So,
far
but
as whether
I
it
don't know how it
looks amazing, you'll have
looks
to
and
look at a
performance.
Digital
I'm not
Foundry
as yeah. I
thing.
would go. Yeah, you could look on YouTube and see, but
I will
it
say I've been able to get it running on my Steam Deck. It's not the greatest, but it runs pretty well. It's serviceable. Like if you
yeah.
want to have the option to go from your PC, sit and then go. I have a hammock outside this room. Go sit in the hammock. Go sit in bed and play. Do some things. It totally runs and can be playable on that too. So maybe you could
That's
check
awesome.
that out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
I'm
just wanted
so
to screw
happy
with
to
you.
hear. Well, our tastes diverge sometimes, and this is one of those games, like you said, it's unabashed in what it wants to be, and because of
Yeah.
that, it's going to alienate some people. And I think the reason this game is so good and is such a masterpiece is because it knows what it's trying to be, and it leans 100% and 110%
Yeah.
into that, and
Wish
it doesn't
more
try to
did
be these
that.
other things. And
Wish
so
more
it's
games did
it's
that.
not afraid of like not being for certain people. And so I was kind of like, it's a coin toss. Like I didn't,
Yeah.
and you haven't done a ton of these types of games, so I was like, I don't know, but is someone
But
who
no,
grew up.
it's hitting on the Red Dead Redemption 2, the
Yeah,
Death Stranding, like just kind of the arduous, monotonous mechanics that feel really make the mundane feel satisfying to accomplish. That's
yeah,
what this game kind of does well. And the thing I appreciate too about this game is it doesn't so far it doesn't feel like it gets lost in the sauce where it just wants everything to be the most complicated, hard to do. Like your horse, you can summon your horse at any point and
yeah,
you just hop on your. I was worried when I got a horse. I was like, oh dear God, what is this going to entail? Like, am I going to have to brush the teeth on this horse? Like, where are we going? And no, it's just a horse. You just call your horse. You know, you can the equipment on your horse can degrade, but other than that, it's a video game horse. You call it, it comes to you, you ride around, you dismiss it, and you leave it somewhere. You call it again. Like I feel like they've struck a really good balance of having those deep RPG elements where you have to wash yourself, you have to take care of what clothing you have
yeah.
and
Not
repair
everything's
it. And
arduous. It's
but
intentionally
like some
arduous
things are
sometimes.
video
Yeah,
gamified enough to where it's like, all right, I can still play this and not feel like every task is this daunting real life. I have to, all right, now I have to go do my taxes. Like they've struck a
yeah,
good
exactly.
balance here.
It's a good balance.
So,
Yeah. Anyway, I would closing thoughts on this is I would just say if you were someone who loved Skyrim or Oblivion, this is the next iteration of that. It doesn't have dragons, but you'll forget because it's such a
and it
good
doesn't
game.
need them.
It doesn't need them. This is Oblivion's one of my favorite games of all time, and this, as soon as I started playing this, I had the feeling I had playing Oblivion for the first time as like a 17-year-old, and I just got swept away, and I just played that for like I stayed up all night. One of the first nights I have this, I played until like 5-6 in the morning, and it's just that good. So we'll
It's
get
one
into
of
more
those games. Yeah.
details in next month, but
Yeah.
this might be my game. I mean, it's early, but right now I think this has a very
It's a
good shot of being my game of the
contender.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Dang.
Okay. Well, cool, Calvin. We'll talk demos offline, or we'll do a video. I got to figure out
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
doing because
whatever.
literally, I legitimately played 20 to 30 demos,
Oh,
and
okay.
I have to
I
find some
mean,
way to like. That's why I didn't finish Benedict Fox's because I
yeah.
just spent 3 days playing demos. So
I only played 4, including the one we tried together. So
yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, we'll wrap it up. We'll let Zach get to his family, his children and wife,
right.
or whatever the heck he's
Your
probably going to
life.
do drugs. He's going to do drugs.
Someone like that. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you all of you, and we'll see you in April, about March.